B&B spoilers. Luna's death changes Finn. Next week on The Bold and the Beautiful, Dr. John Finnegan, Tanner Novlin, will come to terms with the fact that his daughter Luna Nozowa is really dead, or is she? Dylan will insist her on making amends with her victim's father, and B&B spoilers say Hayes' art teacher will kickstart a shocking change in the soap's dashing doctor. Here's what's coming up next week on Bold and the Beautiful. Spoilers down below. B&B spoilers. Finn chose Steffi over Luna. Finn has always been a perfect husband to Steffi Forrester, Jacqueline McInnes would. He didn't think twice about cutting ties with his bio daughter for his wife. But meeting Luna's killer will trigger something in Finn. Bold and the Beautiful spoilers say that Dr. Finn will start to realize that his daughter was clearly mentally ill, and rather than help her, he turned his back on her for Steffi. Finn's guilt will start to take a toll on him around the holidays, and soon Steffi's perfect husband could be unrecognizable. B&B spoilers. Finn's guilt trip. Finn has earned a meltdown on the CBS soap. If Steffi shuts down her husband's grieving and continues to disregard his daughter's death, there's going to be problems ahead in the Shin marriage. According to B&B spoilers, Finn's spiral over his daughter's death will take a toll on the good doctor. Rumors hint that Luna Nozowa, Lisa Yamada, will be back and Finn will get a second shot at being a father to the serial killer and getting her the help and medication she needs. Of course, if that happens, he can kiss his wife goodbye. Do you think that Finn was wrong to turn his back on his troubled daughter? Is Luna really dead, or will she be back? The Cliff House was, for the first time in months, quiet. It wasn't the natural silence of a peaceful evening, but a strained, artificial stillness, like the world was holding its breath. Outside, the Pacific waves whispered their relentless rhythm. Inside, Dr. John Finnegan, usually a portrait of centered calm, was a monument to conflict. Just hours ago, the truth had detonated in their living room. The anonymous driver who had tragically ended Luna Nozowa's tormented life was Dylan, the sweet, unassuming preschool teacher, a friend to his son, Hayes. Finn's reaction hadn't been the rage Steffi had braced herself for, but a staggering, complex surge of empathy and resignation. He'd looked at Dylan's shattered guilt, recognized the inherent goodness there, and, in a moment that shocked everyone, hugged the woman who had killed his biological daughter. She was running, he'd heard himself tell Dylan, his voice hollow. Luna was running from the law, from herself. She put herself in that street. You're not a murderer, Dylan. You are a victim of her chaos. Steffi had held his hand tightly as Dylan, Electra, and Will left, promising support. But once the door clicked shut, the fragile facade of closure crumbled. You surprised me, Finn, Steffi murmured now, watching him stare out at the darkened ocean. I thought you would be devastated, angry. You forgave her so easily. Finn finally turned, his handsome features drawn, his eyes dark with an emotion Steffi couldn't name. Did you want me to scream, Steffi? To demand blood from a woman who was already broken by the accident? Luna was a criminal, a monster who threatened our family. I was relieved she was gone. I told you that. She was a threat removed. He walked to the bar, pouring himself a glass of sparkling water, his hand shaking slightly. But there is a difference, Steffi. There is a vast, icy canyon between being relieved and being okay. Part 2. The Ghost of the Unclaimed. The relief, Finn realized in the ensuing days, was purely intellectual. It was the doctor diagnosing a malignancy and removing it. But the grief was visceral, and it was tied not to the Luna who had terrorized them, but to the daughter he'd suppressed. Luna was the cousin he remembered from childhood, bright-eyed, full of reckless curiosity, a girl who smelled like sea salt and sunshine. The Luna he discovered was his biological child was a terrifying, damaged stranger, fueled by rage and desperation. When he had the chance to step up as her father, he chose Steffi. He chose their safety. He chose the light over the darkness. Now the darkness was gone, but it left a void that echoed with the word unclaimed. He remembered the moment Deputy Chief Baker delivered the news of Luna's death. A simple statement that she succumbed to her injuries after a hit and run. No body identification. No funeral arrangements. Just a stark, official declaration that Luna Nozawa had ceased to be a problem. No one claimed her. Finn's chest tightened. He had rejected her in life, prioritizing his marriage. But in death, a deep, primal, fatherly instinct, one he hadn't known he possessed, flared into existence. It wasn't a love for the villain, but a desperate need to acknowledge the fact of his bloodline, his lost legacy. "We made a pact, Finn," Steffi reminded him one morning as he scrolled through old news reports about the accident. "We agreed to put the Luna horror story behind us. For Hayes, for us." "I know, Steffi. And I mean it," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. He gently put his phone down. "But it's the how of it, isn't it? She was my flesh and blood. She died alone in a street, and the driver was someone she had tormented. It's too neat, too final for such a chaotic life." Steffi watched him closely. The way he was obsessing over the details, the lack of a proper viewing, the speedy conclusion of the police investigation. It wasn't just grief. It was an insatiable need for truth, and that need, she knew, was the same force that had nearly destroyed their marriage when he bonded with his mother, Sheila. Part 3. The Sinister Symmetry. The weeks blurred into a routine where everything looked normal on the surface. But underneath, the foundation of their marriage was shaking. Finn was focused, but on the wrong things. He spent his nights reading legal reports, not medical journals. He started taking long, solitary walks on the beach where Luna had met her end. Steffi was terrified. "You didn't mourn her when she was alive, Finn. Why now? Why this obsession with justice for a woman who tried to ruin us?" "It's not about justice, Steffi," Finn confessed one evening, his eyes raw. "It's about me. I stood on the periphery. I judged her actions and kept my distance. But now she's gone, and all I see is the empty space. A daughter I never saved. I'm a doctor. I save lives. I couldn't save hers. Maybe if I understand the last moments, I can justify the distance I kept." Steffi's heart ached, but her fear sharpened her tone. "That's guilt, Finn. And guilt is a dangerous emotion. It leads you back into the orbit of people who hurt us. It leads you back to—" She stopped herself, unwilling to say the name. "To Sheila." Finn finished for her, a bitter smile twisting his lips. "No, Steffi, this isn't about my mother. This is about being a father and failing that one single biological imperative." But the irony was inescapable. Finn was now mirroring the chaotic secrecy that defined his own life. The secrecy that his mother, Lee, and his biological mother, Sheila, excelled at. He was quietly running his own investigation, contacting sources outside of Deputy Chief Baker's precinct, chasing the whispers of doubt that only soap opera veterans could understand. He gently put his phone down. "But it's the how of it, isn't it? She was my flesh and blood. She died alone in a street, and the driver was someone she had tormented. It's too neat, too final for such a chaotic life." Steffi watched him closely. The way he was obsessing over the details, the lack of a proper viewing, the speedy conclusion of the police investigation. It wasn't just grief. It was an insatiable need for truth, and that need, she knew, was the same force that had nearly destroyed their marriage when he bonded with his mother, Sheila. Part 3. The Sinister Symmetry. The weeks blurred into a routine where everything looked normal on the surface. But underneath, the foundation of their marriage was shaking. Finn was focused, but on the wrong things. He spent his nights reading legal reports, not medical journals. He started taking long, solitary walks on the beach where Luna had met her end. Steffi was terrified. "You didn't mourn her when she was alive, Finn. Why now? Why this obsession with justice for a woman who tried to ruin us?" "It's not about justice, Steffi," Finn confessed one evening, his eyes raw. "It's about me. I stood on the periphery. I judged her actions and kept my distance. But now she's gone, and all I see is the empty space. A daughter I never saved. I'm a doctor. I save lives. I couldn't save hers. Maybe if I understand the last moments, I can justify the distance I kept. Steffi's heart ached, but her fear sharpened her tone. That's guilt, Finn. And guilt is a dangerous emotion. It leads you back into the orbit of people who hurt us. It leads you back to— She stopped herself, unwilling to say the name. To Sheila. Finn finished for her, a bitter smile twisting his lips. No, Steffi. This isn't about my mother. This is about being a father and failing that one single biological imperative. But the irony was inescapable. Finn was now mirroring the chaotic secrecy that defined his own life. The secrecy that his mother, Lee, and his biological mother, Sheila, excelled at. He was quietly running his own investigation, contacting sources outside of Deputy Chief Baker's precinct, chasing the whispers of doubt that only soap opera veterans could understand. Why was there no autopsy report released? Why was the body not shown? Why, for a Forrester-adjacent tragedy, was the closure so painfully simple? Part 4. The Mother's Keeper. Finn knew there was only one person who truly understood the art of manipulating death in their family. Lee Finnegan. His adoptive mother, the woman who had famously hidden his dead body after Sheila shot him, allowing him to recover in secret. He drove to Lee's office at the hospital late one Tuesday. She was working, of course, forever focused on her patients. Finn, what a surprise. You look troubled. Finn didn't mince words. I need to talk to you about Luna's death, Mom. Not the grief. The facts. Lee instantly stiffened, her face adopting a look of cool professionalism that masked years of secrets. Finn, the police confirmed it. The driver confessed. It was an unfortunate accident. Accident, yes, Finn agreed, leaning against her desk, his gaze intense. But death? You taught me a valuable lesson, Mom. That death on a death certificate doesn't always mean death in a person. It means secrecy and opportunity. Lee looked away, picking up a chart. I did what I had to do to save your life, Finn. Luna was different. She was a dangerous girl. She was my daughter, Finn countered, his voice rising in intensity. And the report said she died from injuries. But where is the body? Where are the witnesses? I've looked at the reports, Mom. There's a gap. A crucial omission. A classic setup. He pushed the theory, dredging up the fan rumors about the mystery beachgoer whose clothes Luna stole. The police found a body in Luna's discarded prison clothes. A petite brunette, likely. They assumed it was Luna, closed the case, and saved the Spencers and Forresters a messy trial. It's too convenient. It's the kind of loophole you or even Sheila would exploit. Lee finally dropped the chart. She met his eyes, a strange mix of regret and defiance in her own. And if she is alive, Finn, what then? She's a criminal. She'll come back for Will, for revenge, for chaos. The peace you have with Steffi, the safety of Hayes, it will shatter. Maybe, Finn whispered, the word heavy with dread. But the man I am now cannot live with a lie, not one that directly involves my blood. I can't choose ignorance anymore. Luna's death has changed me, Mom. It's shown me the coward I was when I denied her, and the hypocrite I am if I accept this incomplete truth. Lee sighed, rubbing her temples. She didn't deny his theory, and her silence was all the confirmation he needed. You're walking a dangerous road, John. You're trading your safe, happy marriage for a phantom. I have to know, he insisted. Tell me what you know, Lee. If you didn't fake her death, do you know who did? Part 5. The Unraveling Thread. Lee remained frustratingly loyal to her secrets, but her non-denial confirmed Finn's suspicions. He left the hospital with a cold knot in his stomach and a renewed determination. His obsession was now less about grief and more about solving a terrifying puzzle. He didn't return home. Instead, he drove to the dark, foggy stretch of road in Malibu where Luna was struck. The scene was unremarkable, just asphalt and roadside brush. He felt ridiculous, a world-class surgeon playing amateur detective, driven by the ghost of a daughter he never loved. He pulled over and walked the shoulder, his flashlight beam cutting through the dense night air. He wasn't looking for physical evidence. The police had swept that clean months ago. He was looking for a sign, a break in the narrative. His phone buzzed. It was a text from an anonymous source, a contact he'd cultivated in the low-level police tech department. Checked the prison transfer logs for November 19th. A clerical error was flagged. Luna Nozawa's personal effects box was checked out by an external party, not next of kin, immediately after the declaration of death. Name, R. Price. Use extreme caution. Remy Price, Luna's former accomplice, the one who helped her escape prison. The realization hit Finn like a physical blow, worse than Dylan's confession. Luna wasn't dead. She was on the run, likely hiding, possibly recovering, aided by an underground network of criminals. She had faked her own death, using the hit-and-run victim as her proxy. Finn leaned against his car, the ocean wind whipping around him. The relief he'd felt, the closure Steffi demanded, the forgiveness he'd offered Dylan. It was all a beautifully constructed, manipulative lie. Luna's death had indeed changed him. It had stripped away his composure, fueled his guilt, and replaced his domestic bliss with a hunter's desperate focus. He had just uncovered the most dangerous secret in the recent history of Forrester Creations, and he knew, with chilling certainty, that telling Steffi would destroy their peace forever. If he kept it secret, it would destroy him. He pulled out his phone, his finger hovering over Steffi's number. He knew he had to warn her, but the words stuck in his throat. I have to tell Steffi that the woman who murdered my daughter is still alive, and the daughter I mourned is still a vicious threat. The silence of the night was broken only by the tide, and in that moment Finn Finnegan understood that his brief peace was over. The game was starting again, and this time he was playing by Luna's was drenched in the amber glow of a Pacific sunset, a deceptive tranquility that did nothing to soothe the tempest brewing in Dr. John Finnegan's soul. He watched Steffi, his magnificent, fierce wife, tucking Hayes into bed. She was his anchor, his future, the woman who fought dragons for him, and recently a dragon who happened to be his own biological daughter. Luna Nozawa was gone, ran down in a tragic accident, a sudden, brutal end to a dark chapter that had started with her shocked paternity reveal and ended with her attempt on Steffi's life. The authorities had ruled it an accident, and the driver, Dylan, had been forgiven by Finn, a necessary act of mercy to stop the cycle of hate. But forgiveness was an external transaction. The internal debt remained. Steffi emerged from the nursery, her movements graceful, yet edged with an exhaustion only a Forrester could mask. She walked over to Finn, wrapping her arms around his waist, resting her head against his chest, listening to the erratic thud of his heart. "I heard you sigh, Finn," she murmured, her voice soft but direct. It was the deep one, the Luna sigh. Finn stiffened slightly, pulling away just enough to look into her eyes, those eyes that saw everything, just like her mother's, just like her grandmother's. "It's been a week, Steffi. A week since the confession, since the burial. Don't you think I'd be quiet?" "Quiet is fine, John," Steffi countered, stepping back and running a hand over the lapel of his tailored blazer. "But this isn't quiet. This is silence. The kind of silence that precedes an explosion." She was referring to their pact, the desperate, whispered agreement they'd made in the wake of Luna's death. They would never speak her name again. They would bury the grief and the chaos, choosing their living family over a dead, destructive memory. But Finn knew, as he stared at the fire flickering in the modern hearth, that the memory refused to be buried. It was an echo, a persistent phantom in the empty spaces of his conscience. His conflict was unbearable. Luna had tried to destroy everything he held dear. Yet she was his blood, the child he never knew, a life that ended tragically, partially because of the Forrester/Spencer drama that had consumed her. He hadn't been a father to her, and now he never could be. That guilt, heavy and cold, was becoming a physical weight. "I am trying, Steffi," he said, the words strained. "I choose you. I choose Hayes. I choose us. I made that clear." Steffi's eyes narrowed, a shadow of suspicion falling across her face. "I know you did, but choice is a continuous action, Finn. It's not a single event. It's a million little decisions every day. And right now, the million little decisions you're making are pushing you away from me." She backed him up against the marble countertop, forcing the proximity, forcing the intimacy he had subtly been denying her. "Look at me. Are you mourning a daughter, or are you punishing yourself? Because if you keep choosing to live in this guilt, you're letting Luna win, even from the grave. You're sacrificing our life for her memory." Finn closed his eyes, the image of Luna, manipulative and wounded, flashing behind his eyelids, followed quickly by the clear, sharp, beautiful reality of Steffi. The battle lines were drawn. He had to stop living in the past. "Give me tonight, Steffi," he pleaded, his voice hoarse. "Just tonight. I need to face this. I need to make the choice permanent." Steffi searched his face, her hand resting on his cheek. She recognized the sincerity, the profound pain in his eyes. "Okay, doctor, but when you come back to me, come back completely. Don't bring her ghost with you." Chapter 2. The Ghost on the Edge. Finn left the Cliff House 20 minutes later, driving his black sedan down the dark, winding coastal highway. He parked near the secluded cliff overlook, the spot where the fatal accident had occurred, the place where Luna's life had ended and his marriage's true trial had begun. The air was cold, the sound of the crashing waves a relentless, unforgiving rhythm. He got out and walked to the guardrail. The moon was obscured by heavy clouds, and the ocean below was a churning, black void. He leaned against the cold metal, letting the wind whip around him. "I am a doctor, a man of science, yet I am standing here talking to a ghost." He pulled a small object from his pocket, a worn, silver locket that Luna's mother, Poppy, had given him, a ridiculous, sentimental relic of a life he hadn't shared. He felt a wave of nausea, a dizzying mix of pity, regret, and anger. He threw the locket violently over the railing. It hit the rocks far below with a small, metallic clink that was instantly swallowed by the roar of the sea. "It's over," he yelled into the wind, his voice raw. "I am choosing my life. I am choosing Steffi." He turned to leave, but a sound stopped him. A low, unsettling giggle. He spun around. Standing 10 feet away, bathed in the faint, ethereal moonlight that had just broken through the clouds, was Luna. Not the Luna he last saw, broken and covered in blood, but the Luna he saw in the initial weeks after her paternity reveal. Young, hopeful, and radiating a dark, intense adoration for him. She wore a shimmering white dress, making her appear less like a ghost and more like a twisted angel. "You can't just throw me away, Papa," she whispered, her eyes wide and glittering. Finn's heart hammered against his ribs. He knew this wasn't real. It was the manifestation of his guilt, a psychotic break fueled by sleep deprivation and trauma. But the feeling was terrifyingly real. "You tried to kill my wife," Finn stated, his hand trembling as he gripped the rail. "You brought nothing but darkness and destruction to my family." Luna walked toward him, the sound of her bare feet silent on the asphalt. "And you brought me nothing but rejection. You chose her, the woman who already had a family, who had the perfect life. You chose to mourn the father you never knew, but you couldn't mourn the daughter you never had." She was right. The words pierced him like shards of glass. He had been too late. He had kept her at arm's length. It was self-preservation, Luna. Finn roared. "You were toxic. You were dangerous. Steffi is my soulmate, my wife. I built my life with her. You tried to burn that life to the ground." Deep-seated longing. "Come with me, Finn," she urged, gesturing toward the black abyss of the ocean. "Let the guilt go. Let the chaos claim you. It's what you deserve for turning your back on your own blood." Finn stumbled backward, gasping. The hallucination was too potent. The feeling of her hand passing through him had shaken him to the core, dissolving the boundaries between his sanity and his guilt. He saw his two worlds colliding, the pure, bright promise of Steffi and the dark, inevitable pull of his biological ties. He scrambled back to his car, fumbling with the lock. He needed to get away. He needed the warmth, the reality, the solid ground of his wife's embrace to save him from this abyss. He threw the car into reverse and sped back toward the cliff house, leaving Luna's ghostly image standing alone on the precipice, watching him retreat. Chapter 3. The Unmaking of a Secret. Finn burst through the door of the cliff house. The lights were low, casting long shadows. Steffi was still up, sitting on the sofa, nursing a cup of tea. She looked up, her expression shifting from calm expectation to immediate, razor-sharp concern. "Finn, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." He collapsed onto his knees in front of her, his hands gripping her thighs, burying his face in her lap. The cold air from the cliff still clung to his clothes, a stark contrast to the familiar scent of jasmine and vanilla that was uniquely Steffi. "I saw her," he choked out, his shoulders shaking. "I saw her, Steffi, on the cliff. I thought I had thrown the guilt away, but it came back. It came back and told me I was wrong, that I chose the easy path, the safe path, but not the right path." Steffi's hands immediately moved to cup his head, guiding him up until their eyes met. She wasn't angry or jealous. She was just intensely present. "She's gone, Finn," Steffi said, her voice firm, eliminating all doubt. "That was your guilt. That was your mind playing tricks, because you're a good man who feels bad that his own child was lost. But listen to me. She was never safe. She was never pure. She was a woman who was driven by madness and rage, who shot me, who kidnapped you, who came back to ruin us." Steffi's eyes locked onto his, demanding he see the truth that his heart was trying to deny. "If you let the guilt of a relationship you never had destroy the relationship you do have, the love, the family we built, then she wins. She gets the final victory. Is that what you want? To sacrifice our happiness to honor a tragedy?" Finn pulled back, looking around the room. The photos of them, Hayes, Kelly, their wedding, the undeniable proof of their powerful, chaotic, beautiful life. "She told me I chose wrong," Finn whispered, tearing up. "She said, I chose you over my blood." Steffi didn't flinch. She put her tea down and reached for his hand, weaving her fingers through his. "Then let's settle it right here, right now, so you never doubt it again," Steffi declared. She stood, pulling Finn up with her. "You said you chose me. Now prove it. Not to me, but to the ghost. To the universe. To yourself." She led him to the window overlooking the Pacific, where the moon was now fully visible, casting a silver path across the dark water. "You are John Finnegan," Steffi said, her voice rising with the gravity of a vow. "And I am Steffi Forrester Finnegan. We are Shin. Our family is Hayes, Kelly, and us. We are the center of our universe. Everything outside of this, the Logan drama, the Spencer drama, and yes, the darkness Luna brought, it all stays outside." Finn looked at her, truly seeing her, not just as wife, but the future, bright and solid, standing directly in front of him. He saw the strength that had pulled him from the dead, the love that had rebuilt their life countless times. Luna was a shadow, Steffi was the light. "Luna was chaos," Finn admitted, finally, the acceptance washing over him like a cold sea spray. "She was the storm. I let the storm convince me I deserved to drown." He gripped Steffi's shoulders, his hand shaking, but now with conviction. He needed to make this final, irreversible declaration. He needed to shatter the phantom echo forever. "I choose you, Steffi," Finn declared, his voice ringing with absolute certainty. "I choose you and Hayes. I choose the future we fight for every single day. Luna's life was tragic, and I will always mourn the potential. But her memory does not get to dictate the terms of our marriage." He pulled her into a long, desperate kiss, pouring all his pent-up fear, guilt, and love into the embrace. This wasn't a choice made of duty. It was a choice made of absolute, life-affirming passion. Chapter 4: The End of the Shadow. The next morning, the sun streamed into the cliff house, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, the dust of the past finally settling. Finn sat on the deck, nursing coffee, watching the waves. He felt drained, but undeniably cleansed. Steffi walked out, her hair still slightly damp from a shower, wearing one of his Forrester Creations silk robes. "I thought you might need this," she said, setting a small, leather-bound journal next to him. Finn looked at it, confused. "What is it?" "It was Luna's," Steffi explained, sitting next to him and taking his hand. "The police found it with her things. I almost threw it out, but I kept it. I thought maybe one day you might need to know the rest of the story. The truth of her pain, maybe." Finn picked it up. It was heavy, weighted with unspoken secrets. He opened a random page, reading a frantic scrawl about how the Forrester family had wronged her, how her biological father had abandoned her, and how she planned to reclaim the love she believed was her birthright by destroying Steffi. He read a few more passages, the words radiating hate and madness, and then he closed the journal. He didn't need to read anymore. The pages weren't filled with the innocence he was grieving. They were filled with the darkness he had rejected. "She wasn't the victim I was turning her into," Finn said, his voice flat. "She was consumed." He stood up, walking toward the large outdoor fireplace on the deck, the one they often used for evening romance. He reached for a lighter. Steffi stood beside him, her hand on his back. "It's your final choice, Finn. You can keep it. You can lock it away." Finn shook his head. "A doctor knows that for true healing, you must excise the infection. A choice must be followed by an execution of that choice." He opened the journal and, page by page, placed it into the empty stone hearth. He sparked the lighter and set the pages ablaze. The leather cover caught quickly, releasing a plume of smoke that quickly dissipated into the bright morning air. As the last remnants of the journal turned to ash, Finn felt the last of the guilt lift. He turned and faced Steffi, pulling her into a tight hug, his gaze now clear and focused on the horizon. "It's done," he whispered into her hair. "No more ghosts. No more choices. Just us." Steffi held him just as tightly, knowing that this time the choice was permanent, forged not in fear, but in the final, dramatic realization that his true life was the one he had already built. Dr. John Finnegan, the man forever torn between his biological heritage and his chosen life, had finally and irrevocably chosen his wife, Steffi Forrester, ending the silent war within his soul. The shadow of Luna was gone, consumed by the fire of his unbreakable love.